Welcome to Shark Farmer TV. Emily and I are heading out to Indiana, Becknology Days. And I was putting the address here into the computer box, and it says, you can't do that unless you put the car in park. And I'm thinking, well, that's dumb, because it should know that I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and it should let me put the address in, but it doesn't. It made me think of the old car trips back in the day. The parents, they used to have a station wagon. Kids can Google what that is. But in the back, they had like two seats that would fold down. And so you could get in there and you could fold the seats down on yourself. So it's like you're hiding in your own car. And then there was a carpet on the floor, and you'd lift that up and you could there was a hole. You could stick, I don't know why. It was pretty unsafe, but we had fun. They had cigarette lighters. I actually had a burning thing in there. To put your dims and your high beams on. There was a button there that you pushed with your foot. Those were the days. You didn't have your dual climate control. You didn't have your air conditioned seats. Honestly, those are pretty fantastic. If you're going to buy a car, I'd spend the money. Regardless or irregardless, I'm not sure what I was talking about, but Back to the Future promised us flying cars by 2025, and I don't think Elon's going to get there. Enjoy the show.
Unstoppable, unshakable, but it rolls off the tongue, unfakeable. It's unavoidable, he's so relatable. Read between the lines, start to loosen up your mind. A ground shaker, a rule breaker. Hold tight, he'll roll you through every acre. So get ready for the next shake-up.
Have you ever seen that movie Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox? The original one, back in 1985. It's about a teenage werewolf, and he struggles to fit in high school and all that. Yeah. It sucked. But it was also around the time when the Back to the Future movies were so hot. So anything that Michael J. Fox was in is going to be a hit. Regardless, or irregardless for our Canadian viewer, there was one scene in that movie where he gets all woofy and he vehicle surfs on top of his friend's van. You know, he's up there doing that. His friend's name was Styles. Kind of hate that I know that. I have an idea for a sequel. This time you have a teenage farm kid who discovers that he's a Werecoon. Like a werewolf raccoon. Instead of you get it, right? And instead of surfing on the van, he surfs on a John Deere 9 Series. Oddly enough, this same kid, he lives outside of a small town that is outlawed dancing. This movie's basically writing itself, right? Alf, somehow, he got elected as that small town's mayor. Max Headroom, he was a stern preacher who actually had a soft spot. And it was always brought out by his loving wife. His loving wife was Princess Leia. She kissed her brother. There's no more complicated time in history than the 1980s. This video is sent from friend of the show, Trevor Bales. He's from Arizona. That's his actual name. It's clever, isn't it? And if you ever spend a summer right in Iraq in 100-degree heat, you kind of hate this video. This is what I dreamed about as a kid, because I'd always be racking by myself, and the guy in the tractor, he'd just be jerking it as much as he could, and I would only stack him 4 high, and he's like going higher. I'm like, nope, I'm only stacking 4 until you learn what a clutch is. You like the music? I do. It's called 90s Rap Mashup. It's by Austin Williams. See, this is the best video, because I've interviewed both the guy that did the interview and the guy singing the song. See, Trevor, that's Shark Farmer Podcast number 287, and he talks about his wife went into labor and he was messing around with bales and stuff and didn't get her to the hospital, and he had to deliver the baby on the side of the road. It's the weirdest thing. Trevor, he was Shark Farmer Podcast number 399. I tell you what, this country boy, he's bound to hit it big. Did you know they actually farm crawfish? I did, mainly because Louisiana Farm Bureau does such a good job explaining stuff on This Week in Louisiana Agriculture with their host, Avery Davison. Seen here on RFD TV. You remember when Avery and I went to New Orleans and he taught me how to eat beignets? Are you a fan of eating crawfish? I think I'm too Yankee to appreciate it. I don't think I get it. The first time I ate them was in New Orleans on a different trip. And we went to this restaurant, and they were known for their crawfish. And I remember the waitress was just a little bit of a thing, like 80 pounds, right? And she comes up, and she's like, I usually eat about 5 pounds. I'm like, okay, I can definitely do 5 pounds then. And she's like, do you want, the mild, the hot, or the boiling? I'm like, mild, please. She brings out crawfish, like, I don't know, like a bushel or two, and she dumps them on the table. I take a bite of the first one. You're supposed to pull them out or whatever you do. My mouth literally, like lava, like magma coming, like hottest. My lips hurt. My lips were tingling. My mouth was gone. It was on fire. But my lips were tingling. And we were with people, Southerners, at the table, and they were just all loving it. I don't know how they did it. I literally ate one, and then, they're kind of making fun of me because I'm down in beer at this point because I don't know what to do. I think my insides are actually boiling, and they're making fun of me. So what do? I mean, you got to be a man about stuff. I took another one. That was a mistake. The first one was a mistake. The second one was life-threatening, honestly. Now, I have been to a crawfish boil. I went and spoke at the Mississippi Extension years ago, and they took them and they boil it all with corn on the cob. I don't know what else is in there, alligator, stuff like that, and they dump it all out on the table. But when I went to grab a crawfish, I remembered that. So I'm sitting there watching everybody else eat crawfish to see if it's too hot for me. And them old boys were just pounding them. I mean, just one after another. So I'm like, okay. I take one, same thing. So I don't think I can do it. I don't know if they come out of the water that hot or if you put lava on them, but I think, I will admit, I'm too much of a Yankee to enjoy crawfish. If you laughed at this, you're an awful person. You know who else is an awful person? My wife. She laughed. Deidre, the producer, she laughed. Spivey up in the booth, I can hear him laughing. Awful people. I didn't laugh. I was concerned that this guy landed on something, like maybe a small child. I was concerned for the concrete that he landed on. Again, I'm not the awful person. I guarantee they were feeding their barn cats too much. And then my wife says, oh, they're just kittens. They're learning. They're still learning. They're learning to look like a fool. Remember Tom and Jerry? The reason Tom tried so hard to get Jerry, because if he didn't, the housewife was going to kick him out. He was going to kick his feline behind out. If results weren't met, Tom was gone. The key to barn cats is feed ratio. You give them just enough to keep them around, but not enough that they're ever really full. My cat, Napa, is a cold-blooded instrument of death. That cat will take down a rabbit. They must be hungry. Hungry for carnage. How many of y'all were watching this and you're waiting for the horse to kick the cat? Huh? What's wrong with you people? Wanting a kitty to get kicked? Y'all need Jesus.
This week's Machinery Clip of the Week is presented by John Deere.
Sometimes I think my mind is broken. I mean, 99.9% of people would watch this video and they'd just be like, oh, a combine was sucking or pulling it out. I get caught up in the fact that it doesn't have a hopper extension. You know how much capacity you're giving up? Hey, why is the auger not folded all the way in? Did they have to run those 2 tractors out in the beans to pull it out? You're losing yield? I don't know. It's just, hope you enjoyed a combine being pulled out of the mud. Coming up next, we're gonna play Name That Tool. Now, I ran out of gadgets for my dad's barn, so we borrowed tools from the Putnam County Agricultural and Historical Museum.
I'm sure this is a family heirloom of some sort. Grandma probably wore it like right about here on Sunday morning when she went to church.
Grandma was an unusual woman.
I would say.
You can't farm without tools, but do you know what these are used for? Don't worry, the average farmer doesn't either. What we got there?
Well, just by the shape of it, reminds me of an old hog oiler.
Yes, it does, but that would be wrong, but you're correct. What are you thinking?
Looks like something my wife would buy to hang up somewhere.
They do stuff like that, right? Like the Longenberger baskets and stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, you broke it now.
No, I didn't break it.
Man, that's expensive too.
I just opened it up. I don't know. You put something in there and hang it in there, and I don't know.
Oh, you broke it.
No, I did not.
You don't have to put it together.
Yeah, I will. There
you go.
It's got a double lock.
Now we don't have to charge you.
This is a bird cage.
Oh yeah, I don't know what kind of bird you got.
Is this what you put like your bath bomb in before you put it in your washing machine?
You know, that might be a little loud in the dryer, but yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
Now, I'm not a fisherman, but I'm positive this is like that red and white bobber thing that you use on the line.
Okay, they're supposed to float, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Not a fisherman. But you know, I pack a really great lunch when it's time to go fishing.
Did they hang it over a fire to like burn something in it, or?
That's what it looks like.
Hang it in a tree to burn something in?
This is a Christmas ornament.
Is that what that is?
It could be.
It kind of reminds me of when they used to have the hogs and they'd get their nose, they'd put something in there and they'd roll it.
The roller? Yeah.
Them rollers?
Yeah. It is not.
I don't dump that in your soup or something. That's something out there. Something flavor your soup. I don't know.
Well, that'd be something to hold either a candle or light in, or nowadays they'd probably put a disinfectant in it.
Yes.
This is also not an air freshener in your tractor, is it?
It kind of looks like it.
It kind of does. You put some of that Scentsy business in there, and everybody's very happy.
Or like grandmother's Fabergé, whatever they had.
I'm sure this is a family heirloom of some sort. Grandma probably wore it like right about here on Sunday morning when she went to church.
Grandma was an unusual woman. You put the elf and the shelf in there, you'd be all set.
I'd say you'd stick something in, and I don't know if it's for pets or livestock.
You like a gerbil holder?
I don't know about that. Is there anything agriculture related?
I imagine that would be in a farm shop back in the day.
Probably put a candle in that, I'd say.
What the priest does in the church, incense holder.
Oh my gosh, that could be an incense thing. I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it hangs off of something, obviously.
Yep.
And you put stuff inside of it.
Like what stuff? Like living stuff? Like a gerbil?
I doubt it. I'm thinking it's got to be like. It reminds me of like an incense thing.
Like
but
you're
I know
in church,
that's not what it is. Yeah.
A bird feeder.
That would have been a guess too.
Yeah.
Actually, when they
Wrong
had.
again?
Huh?
Wrong again?
You are.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're not getting upset.
Well, I'm wrong most of my life. So they help.
Back when they used to use the ball of string, and then you look on the bottom there's just a little hole you would run it out just to keep your ball together.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, now you broke it. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Joey Lankford. He's the Executive Director of Cultivate. That's a farm located on the Tennessee Department of Ag ground that grows not just food, it grows people.
Cultivate was birthed out of the idea that we could take some land, engage food insecurity in around Middle Tennessee, but also create a pathway for the unemployed usually coming out of prison or addiction. Is sort of where the space that we're in right now, and take 15 people at a time and work them through a job training program.
So today we're talking with Joey Lankford from Brentwood, Tennessee. How you doing, Joey?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. You are the executive director at Cultivate.
Yes, sir.
What is Cultivate?
Cultivate was birthed out of the idea that we could take some land, engage food insecurity in around Middle Tennessee, but also create a pathway for the unemployed, usually coming out of prison or addiction. Is sort of where the space that we're in right now, and take 15 people at a time and work them through a job training program.
So you're actually working with people that have been, people that need a hand.
People that generally are from rural counties around Tennessee that find themselves in Nashville because of the services in and around Nashville that from housing when they get released to transportation to just all the things that support services that they need. So the farm's just literally 15 minutes from here, and very accessible.
Why? Are you just a nice guy?
In my early 30s, I was in healthcare, so I don't have a farming background. My wife asked me, we had 3 biological children. She asked me if I wanted to adopt. And so we started that process and ended up getting a little girl from Ethiopia. Through that process, decided that we were gonna live our life on mission for a bit and do something really, it wasn't to save the world, it was just use the time in our early 30s to do something that others weren't doing. So we moved. When we got Bristol, we stayed here a couple of months to get her readoption done, packed up 17 crates and moved to Cape Town, South Africa.
Okay.
And I was landed in front of a township with 45,000 people on it, 1 square mile, and we were doing workforce development. And there were some greenhouses for sale down the road, and we literally bought those and set them up as a training platform to get people ready for unfilled jobs in Cape Town. Really, I think was just inspired by not only the food poverty and food inequity in South Africa, but then we stayed there 5 years and began to refocus. Okay, if we're going to turn this over to Africans, what are we going to do? What are we going to do next?
Why did you come back?
The people that we had trained took over and are still leading it today.
Still going.
Still going. Yeah, it's going strong. My wife and I started looking at the food scarcity and food deserts in Middle Tennessee and realized there's some work to be done here. And so we came back. And we took 4 children. We brought back 5. My wife got pregnant while we were in South Africa, and so
that's kind of on you, isn't it?
It is on me. It is on me. It makes an interesting conversation.
Tell me how you started, how Cultivate got going.
I had requested from the administration, the governor. I just asked if we could.
You just called him?
Oh, I knew him. I'd known him.
You know the governor.
I do. The conversation began with the previous commissioner, Julius Johnson, about, do you have any land? Do we have any land anywhere? And I didn't know at the time that the ag department was as big as it is and as beautiful as it is. And he took me down a little path to an 8-acre plot of ground and said, yeah, would this work? And it's absolutely stunning. And so we literally just started after we got the lease agreement done with the state to turn that land into food. We just started recruiting from other organizations and nonprofits, people that were not employed, and putting them into work and growing crops. So that's how it evolved.
Well, tell me about who helps you. I mean, if I wanted to work at your place, who are you looking for?
We're looking for those that need to earn a living, who need to be in a community where they can be around people that have either come through addiction or need the community of sobriety around them, constant accountability. We have about 4,000 volunteer hours served a year on the farm. So a lot of school groups, a lot of church groups. We got a lot of corporations in Nashville that come with their teams and serve alongside the people that are actually in the program. And so it provides, there's education and learning going both ways. They wouldn't otherwise meet somebody that just got out of prison unless the farm provides that space. And when your hands are in the dirt and you're growing food, it neutralizes pretty much every conversation.
I look at someone like yourself, and I think it would be tough. Right, because you're giving great opportunities, your time to people like this. There's people that are going to burn you on that.
Sure.
How do you deal with that?
I spent the first few years probably just running from it, thinking that, you know, maybe if I just worked hard enough for somebody that they wouldn't relapse or that they wouldn't burn me after 6 months of investment, time and energy and money. And it really put me in a bad spot in 2018 where I was just like really just didn't like, you know, the outcome. I had to realize that I didn't have a cape. I couldn't fix the person. You know, I was basically just supposed to be in relationship with people and expect that over time they would grow to want the opportunity that we were offering. And we've seen over 100 people graduate and be sent out into workforce opportunities. So it works for some, and some Cultivate just, you know, is not for them at the time that they're in our program. Our prior graduates now run all the programs. So they know who they're dealing with. They actually work better and have more empathy and experience in line with who we're hiring on. So see a lot more sustainability with the model now that I'm not doing the intake and application process. So,
people are going to hear this and they're going to want to do good like you do. What advice would you give them?
I think as far as stepping into the food space, where I've seen a lot of traction is looking at places where we have underutilized property, you know, behind your congregation, behind your school. We've turned a lot of school grounds into educational gardens and just introducing people to farming. I think food and farming creates the space for community, so find a place where you can do that. Money's not the reason people don't do things a lot of times. It's just the creativity behind how do we do it? Do we want to do it? And then start talking about it, and I think you'll find that there's more people probably having that same nudge that you are.
Ephesians 3:20. What's that mean to you?
It was very formative early on because I was stepping out into something that if God didn't step into, I was going to fall flat on my face. I was praying that God would do immeasurably more than I could ask or imagine. And that was at a time where I was taking my father-in-law's daughter to Africa and and his grandkids. So, I mean, it could have went really wrong really fast. But the Lord has He's answered that prayer for me, and He's given me the space to step back and say, you know, if anybody tried to take the credit for what God's been able to do through that step of faith in my journey, He can do it in anybody's life. There's not, like you said, I'm not a farmer, you know, and so stepping in faith in something that's bigger than you, I think gives God the space to really supernaturally infuse that and do some really, really wild things.
If people want to find out more about what you do, social media, internet, where do they go?
It's at Cultivate Farms. So all your social media platforms, your Instagram, Facebook, all that, at Cultivate, spelled with a 2, Farms, and they can find out what we're doing, where we're going, and how we're growing and impacting the food space here in Middle Tennessee. So.
Yeah. Well, Joey, I'm glad it worked out with you and to get work with the Department of Agriculture. And this is what the world needs: more people that are unselfish, more people that are willing to look at other people's needs. I look at you and I feel like I should do a lot more. So you are an inspiration to not only the local community but to the world in general. So I want to thank you for everything that you do.
Thanks for the invite on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Thanks for spending some time with us here on Shark Farmer TV. For more stories about people in agriculture, catch my shows on Rural Radio Channel 147 Sirius XM. There's more in-depth discussions on my podcast, and of course, you can check out previous episodes of this show on my YouTube channel. Find out more at sharkfarmer.com.
I told her when she asked me, I said, what every Christian man can do to buy 6 weeks of time minimum is I'm going to pray about it, which wher you do or not, it still buys you time.
Dude, you don't say that out loud, man.
Okay.